worth a second of your time. Just saying. All right, Tucker, busy news night. And breaking right now, tonight on Hannity, the Department of Justice, they have now found the 5 months of critical missing text messages between Trump-bashing FBI lovebirds Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. Now, we first reported this right here last night on the show. Also breaking at this hour, just released text messages, new ones from Strzok and Page, now show even more evidence that, in fact, the fix was on as it relates to the Clinton email investigation. Also, those corrupt FBI officials suggested that a special counsel be appointed to the Clinton email case. And that's not all tonight, with congressional Republicans now signaling that they are going to release the classified memo. Hopefully we'll see it next week. The Daily Beast is beginning to leak some of that memo, and they are reporting that James Comey, Andrew McCabe, Rod Rosenstein are all named in that explosive document exposing FISA abuses against the president and his campaign. And also huge news tonight, we have every single detail, and it is why we are calling on all of you, keep up the pressure. Please, it's making a difference. And call Congress, and we'll give you the number, and this is only part of our very important opening monologue, and we have a lot more to tell you. All right, buckle up and welcome to Hannity. Where's the opening animation? All right, ready? Do it again. 1, 2, 3, go. There you go. There we go. All right, we start tonight. Major new developments we have to tell you about. As we first reported right here on Hannity last night, the Department of Justice, they have tracked down the 5 months of missing text messages between the Trump-hating FBI agents Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. Fox News is also learning at this hour that at least 4 phones, 1 and 2 isn't enough, belonging to Strzok and Page have in fact been recovered. Sarah Carter also has a brand new breaking news report tonight that is raising very serious questions about why the FBI blamed Samsung and claimed they could not recover those messages. We'll have those exclusive details. Now, the good news is that we have those messages which are in that critical time period during the, quote, Trump-Russia investigation, stretching from President Trump's transition until Robert Mueller was appointed as special counsel. We were missing all that. Now, the bad news is that the Inspector General is now reviewing the messages to turn over to Congress. Why not just release them? Let the public decide. Let the people decide, the American people. Let them see just how corrupt and biased these FBI agents, Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, really are. Now, there's a total of over 50,000 messages. And tonight, we have the new ones that will provide more incontrovertible evidence that the fix was in on this Clinton email investigation. Now, Senator Chuck Grassley, he released a new batch. Now, on February 25th, 2016, Lisa Page, text Strzok. One more thing. She might be our next president, meaning Hillary. The last thing you need is us going in there loaded for bear. You think she's going to remember or care it was more DOJ than FBI? And Strzok replies, agreed. Remember, he interviewed her. So back in February, Strzok and Page already talking about going easy on the Clinton investigation into the emails because they thought she would become the president and then retaliate against the DOJ and the FBI. Now, just stop there for a second. In early May, before they ever interviewed Hillary Clinton, just think about this. They're writing an exoneration before an investigation. Remember that he is the guy that interviewed Hillary and General Flynn. Now, that year, James Comey, Strzok, other top FBI officials, they started drafting this exoneration months before interviewing Clinton and 17 other key witnesses. Ever hear of that before? So what we're now developing here is a fact pattern that is showing a massive cover-up and obstruction of justice case. Now, in February, Strzok and Page, they were worried about upholding the rule of law and conducting a real investigation against Clinton because they thought would win the election. They didn't want to be mad at them. And then Strzok, Comey, and company, they changed the language, remember, from the legal standard of gross negligence to extreme carelessness. May not sound like a big difference, but legally it's a huge difference, even though it means the same thing. That means Clinton would not face charges. They were putting the fix in. Now, the fix was in, and the evidence now was overwhelming. And it's not all. As Strzok and Page discuss in the just-released text, the pair are talking about appointing a special counsel to do the Clinton probe, because they don't want to be blamed if, in fact, they go after her, because it may come back to bite them. Now, on March 18th, Strzok writes that thought of the perfect person D can bounce this off of. Page asks who. Strzok responds. Pat, who Senator Grassley says is Patrick Fitzgerald. Remember the special counsel and the Valerie Plame affair, the guy that gave Scooter Libby a raw deal? Now, you got to give me credit. If we go with him and delay briefing him on until I can get back and do it later next week or later, Strzok then later says, I could work with him again, and damn, we'd get done. Page follows up with, I know, like I said, we discussed Boss and him yesterday. Then Strzok says, it frustrates me because Bill at his 7:15 brings up the whole matter in front of his dads. You know, one who is acting for Dina, who immediately goes to John and tells him how Bill is stressed because all the stuff is going on about a special prosecutor. Bill needs to learn to not talk to everybody about this when he's upset about it. And I guarantee that agent, while discreet, is certainly going to tell at least a few other people. Then Strzok continues. I'm sending, redacted, to the 8:30 with Jones so I can meet with John. Page responds, did he go so far as to talk about why we started talking special prosecutor? And then Page says, don't think so. In my office talking to John. And the discussion about the special counsel doesn't end there. This is insane. On May 13, 2016, Page says to Strzok, hey, forgot to ask if you mentioned the whole special counsel thing to Andy. Oh, wonder who Andy is. Going from previous texts, we assume that's Andrew McCabe, the deputy FBI director. I know this is a lot to absorb. This is what this all means. Strzok, who played a key and central and pivotal role in the entire Clinton email investigation, which includes overseeing FBI interviews with Hillary and her top aides, and then Page, who was the top legal counselor for Andrew McCabe, the deputy FBI guy. They both thought for months a special counsel should have been appointed. They didn't want her being mad at them. And if Strzok and Page thought that then, doesn't that mean we should have a special counsel now? Because we have even more evidence that the fix was in and that Hillary Clinton, scary, but she was protected. This was rigged, just like the rigged primary with Bernie. Now, we also have a new text about Andrew McCabe and his recusal in the investigation. Now, Page texts Ribicki, remember that name, Comey's chief of staff, just called to check in. Well, he very clearly 100% believes that Andy should be recused because of the perception. Strzok says, God. Page replies, our statement affected the stock market. A little self-importance here. And Page adds, well, don't understand your email. If it's a matter similar to those we've been talking about lately, why no recusal before? Something different, question mark? And Strzok, I assume, well, McAuliffe, remember Terry McAuliffe, Clinton allies, former Virginia governor, picked up. But that doesn't make sense because he said he was interviewing, maybe he's headed into private practice. So, Comey's chief of staff only wanted McCabe to recuse himself because of public perception, not because of the fact that McCabe's wife, remember, she got the $700 grand in a campaign and campaign contributions from Terry McAuliffe, an insane amount for any race in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and Democrats. It turned out to be a failed state Senate run. You see the connections here? Andrew McCabe, deputy director, friends with Strzok and Page, private meetings, insurance policy, $700 grand for his wife. And then on top of all of that, Comey was not doing a real investigation. He was turning a blind eye to what we know were felonies and crimes committed by Clinton. Now, other Strzok and Page messages now indicate that the Attorney General, we told you this last night, Loretta Lynch, she also knew Hillary Clinton was not going to be charged. Strzok knew it, Page knew it, McCabe knew it, Comey knew it, and now Loretta Lynch. And this happened even after Lynch took a backseat in the investigation after getting caught talking to Bill Clinton on the tarmac for 40 minutes about grandchildren. Another lie. Now, we also know that Lynch told Comey to call the investigation a matter, not an investigation. Comey complied. This is the very definition of corruption in government, not rank and file FBI, not rank and file DOJ, not rank and file intelligence, no, the upper echelon. So we have top figures in Obama's FBI and Department of Justice literally betraying the rule of law and shredding the Constitution Why? Because they wanted Hillary Clinton to continue on as a presidential candidate and not charged for the obvious felonies she committed with the email server investigation, and she could beat Donald Trump in the general election, and they don't want to get her mad anyway. These facts, this evidence, is so transparent and obvious, a 10-year-old can understand it, except if you work in the news media in America. Now, the so-called investigation from the get-go, it was a sham. We now have the evidence, and the type of thing you only see in a banana republic. And all of that is a lot to take in and process. But this is only the start of information that we have tonight. The Daily Beast tonight is, in fact, reporting the classified 4-page memo. Names specifically, this is the first leak on this memo. We will probably get it after the State of the Union next week, that fired and disgraced former FBI Director James Comey, the Deputy FBI Director we were just talking about, Andrew McCabe, the Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, and deep state officials that abused their powerful Pfizer surveillance powers. They're all mentioned. Now, we don't know specifically what the memo says about these 3 corrupt officials and what they did, but here's what we do know. Top-ranking officials at the DOJ, at the FBI, they used and they abused the powerful, unmatched tools of intelligence that we give our government to protect us. But they used it in this case to spy on members of a presidential opposition party in a campaign year and then a president-elect. And the reason why they did it is to influence first the election and then undermine the choice of the American people. They never thought Donald Trump would become president because this group of deep state bureaucrats thought that they could subvert your will, the will of the American people. And no liberal mainstream media. You know what? We're not talking about, again, rank and file. We respect rank and file FBI, DOJ, intelligence officials. Those people work tirelessly. They risk their lives every single day to protect us and serve us. Here's who we've been exposing night after night. This is a rogue group of Obama administration holdovers that despise Donald Trump, then candidate, now president. They tried to stop him from becoming president, and since then, they have tried to undermine and unseat the president at every single term. Now, this is why releasing this memo is of the utmost importance. And the reason the American people, we have been telling you about all of this can be exposed, all of this can be investigated, all crimes be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. We're asking you again tonight, keep up the pressure. Keep calling your members of Congress. Keep demanding that this memo be released. There's the number at the bottom of your screen, 202-224-3121. Tell Congress, release the memo. We are demanding to know truth. We want to see it, and then we want to see the underlying documents that support it. And also tonight, with the U.S. economy on an absolute tear, President Trump, he rolled into the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, and he got a hero's welcome. Look at this headline from the Drudge Report earlier today. Trump storms Davos speech, invest in America, pops to 45% approval, same as the anointed one, Obama, and the Dow soaring. So President Trump, just like he's been doing for over a year, declared to the world, America's open for business and America's back. Take a look.
We want great prosperity and we want great peace, and I think that really is the message. It's been going really well. A lot of people are coming back to the United States. We are seeing tremendous investment, and today's been a very exciting day, a very great day.
I just want to thank everybody. The receptivity that we've had and the United States has had being here has been incredible. Sitting around this table are some of the greatest business leaders in the world, some of the greatest companies in the world. Probably I can think of no other place or time where you'll have executives of this stature. I just want to say that there's been a lot of warmth, a lot of respect for our country, and a lot of money, billions and billions of dollars is coming into the U.S., and people are very happy with what we've done, not only on the tax bill, but also cutting of regulations. And I think also being a cheerleader for our country. You know, if you're not a cheerleader for your company or for your country, no matter what happens, it's not going to work. And that's what I've been, and that's what my whole group has been.
Now, the president was so well received that even liberal conspiracy TV, MSNBC, they actually had to admit it. This is almost priceless. Liberal Joe, Dr. Joe, and Liberal Mika, Dr. Mika Brzezinski. Watch this.
I got some people tweeting me to say, why don't you talk about the protesters, too? There are no protesters here. There are zero protesters in Davos.
But
protesters can't get near Davos. You can't get anywhere near here.
Yes, we need to put in perspective. There are zero protesters, not
you can't be here.
because people don't want to protest.
Totally right.
You can't possibly get there.
You saw what happened when the president came in. You know, people had their phones. They were taking pictures. It sort of looked a bit like a rock concert, frankly. Now, that is not to say that it was a warm welcome. It was to say it was like a rock star welcome in that, wow, everybody wanted to see Donald Trump. If he comes out this way, it'll be the same thing. The crowds around Donald Trump are really big. Stephanie, you've been here. You know that there are world leaders, and sometimes they've got a small entourage around them and the people to take pictures. It's totally different with Donald Trump. He's getting a big reception. Don't know how warm it is, but it's a big reception, and he's going to try and cut some deals. We'll follow it very closely through the course of the day.
All right, we should point out it may be a rock star caliber reception, but there's no rock star stage. The president, no leather pants, no shredded T-shirt. He's still in his classic suit.
Wait a minute. The crazy guy that's demented, that has early onset Alzheimer's, he's getting a great reception? Everybody likes the crazy guy? No. The fact is, he's earning this. The world is beginning to see the possibility of massive economic growth. And the president is set to deliver a major speech tomorrow. Ed Henry is here later with a full preview of all of that. Now, what's happening with the economy is not a coincidence. What we're seeing taking place is a direct result of the president's policies, which are the complete opposite of the failure of Barack Obama. Take a look at the side of your screen. Now, these are all of the companies, they're giving their workers bonuses and raises because of the president's tax cut. That's more money in the pockets of the forgotten men and women. Remember, they were at the heart of this last election. But, of course, to the completely out-of-touch Democrats. Look at Nancy Pelosi, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. They're calling these $1,000, $2,000 bonuses crumbs. Now, we're going to have a lot more on that later tonight. Get ready, Nancy. You may want to watch. And here's an important point. The tax cuts haven't even taken full effect yet. And we have a record high stock market, over 2.2 million jobs created since Donald Trump was elected, record low unemployment, including all-time lows for African Americans and Hispanics in terms of what their work numbers are, consumer confidence at an all-time high, 2 million fewer people on food stamps, and consecutive quarters of over 3% GDP. And we had a president for 8 years, the only one in history that never had a single year at 3% GDP. These results speak for themselves. And another fact that proves that President Trump has nothing to hide. According to reports, the White House has voluntarily now, they've handed over 20,000 pages to Robert Mueller and his band of merry Democrat donors, like Andrew Weissman and the rest of them. Mueller has collected a whopping, get this, 1.4 million pages of documents from the Trump campaign and their investigation. That is not something you're going to hear from the mainstream media. That's called transparency. Now, tonight, for example, they're trying to change the story. At this hour, the New York Times is trying to distract you. They have a story that Trump wanted Mueller fired sometime last June, and our sources, and I've checked in with many of them, they're not confirming that tonight. And the president's attorney dismissed the story and says, no comment, we're not going there. And how many times has the New York Times and others gotten it wrong? Here with reaction, Fox News national security strategist, former deputy assistant to the president, Sebastian Gorka, and Fox News contributor Herman Cain. Sebastian, we start with you tonight. If these text messages don't put it over the top for those that have been trying to cling like a lifeline to this phony Russia, Trump narrative, collusion narrative, I don't know what will. Your thoughts?
Nothing, Sean. So let's just put this into perspective. Very simply put, one of the most senior agents at the FBI responsible for the Hillary Servergate investigation decided and put it in a text message to his lover, I'm going to give Hillary special treatment because, hey, she might be the next president. That is the definition of the perversion of justice. That is the definition of corruption. And not surprisingly, the Daily Beast is already behind the curve. We know about Comey, we know about Strzok, we know about Rosenstein. Talking to my sources, there are 12 people in this conspiracy at the highest levels of the intelligence.
Are these people mentioned in the memo? Do you have sources?
No. This is not in the memo. This is phase 2. Remember, the memo is the tip of the iceberg. And Sean, I'm worried because the GOP doesn't understand strategic communications. If they don't release this memo now, they will lose the war in this communications battlefield because they're being diligent. They're being very cautious. But the fact is, you see Schiff out there already spinning. The Republicans are taking weeks and months to get everything double-checked. They will lose the communications war, and the conspiracy will continue. Because these people, Sean, they're still at the FBI. They're still at the DOJ. They should have been stripped of their badge, stripped of their gun, and perp-walked out of the Hoover building months ago.
How is it possible, Herman Cain, I think Dr. Gorka raises a good point, that Lisa Strzok still has a job, and Lisa Page and Peter Strzok, how do they still have jobs? How does Andrew McCabe still have a job? How is it that James Comey is not under an investigation at this point, and all the others involved in this? How is that possible?
It is possible because of the methods that they know that they can use to create barriers. Number one, somebody should go to jail. And I agree with Dr. Gorka. Yes, the Republicans need to insist. So all of your viewers, you should insist to your representative and your senators release the memo. The reason that most of the Democrats on the Intelligence Oversight Committee didn't want to read it is because they know it had damaging information. Somebody should go to jail, and until they release that memo, we won't be able to get to the bottom of this. And let's face it, the American people are paying for this. We deserve transparency, and the T in transparency
there are 50,000
is
texts.
the truth.
Let's release all of them.
Yes.
Now.
Release them all.
Release them all.
Why don't they want to release them? It's very simple. They have something to hide from the American people and from the public, and they need to release the memos and release the memo. That's pure and simple.
Release the memo and release the text. Dr. Gorka,
yes.
What we are learning tonight, I know it gets confusing. I can put them back on the side of the screen as you're speaking here, but as you look at what Strzok and Page are saying to each other, it is unbelievable to me that all of this happened. They still have a job. Now, they wanted to protect Hillary Clinton unless she became president. They had an insurance policy. Now, we know that Comey, McCabe, Strzok, Page, and Loretta Lynch all knew she was never going to be indicted. That's not an investigation. That's called obstruction of justice, especially in light of what we know. Mishandling classified information, felony. Destroying classified information, felony. She did all of that. And even Comey said it. And it gets worse. Then destroying 33,000 subpoenaed emails. And then it gets worse. Then acid washing and bleach bidding the hard drive so you never find them again. And who takes a hammer to bust up their old BlackBerry unless you're trying to hide something and obstruct justice?
Sean, you've outlined what Hillary did, and these are all felonies. The private server, the destruction of evidence, these are all felonious activities. We know she's a criminal. We know she had accomplices. But what's even worse is that under the Obama administration, the FBI's management aided and abetted her. She wasn't sworn under oath. Her evidence, the laptops that they took from her were destroyed, not by Hillary. They were destroyed by the FBI. They allowed her best friend, who was also a suspect, to act as her counsel in that interview. How did that happen? That happened because the Obama administration allowed it to happen. And the right name for all of this, Sean, is Obama Gate. Because if he doesn't allow this to happen, it doesn't happen.
Well, I will tell you, I never thought Herman Cain in my lifetime that we would see people at this level of power literally thinking that they can use a bought and paid for phony dossier of Hillary Clinton to get a FISA warrant, first to lie to the American people and propagandize the American people with Russian lies, and then to use that very dossier to get a FISA warrant to spy on an opposition candidate in a presidential election year and then use it to undermine a president-elect. This is not a banana republic, Herman Cain. But this is the
No.
stuff of a banana republic.
Sean, my last word is simply this. Somebody is going to go to jail. The only question is who and when. And I want to remind people, due process takes time. But somebody is going to jail just based upon the information that we already have. And if we get the other information from the memo and the missing emails, somebody is going to jail, and they should.
I have no doubt if we have equal justice under the law and we follow
Yes.
the law and we believe in our Constitution, all of what
Yes.
you said should come true. Thank you both, Herman Cain, Sebastian Gorka. Great job tonight. Yet another major breaking development tonight. According to a 2016 text that we just obtained moments ago, embattled FBI official Peter Strzok, he told his girlfriend the top officials at the FBI actively withheld information from Congress following requests. This text reads in part, quote, "The thing is, there are very inflammatory things in the 302s that we didn't turn over to Congress because they weren't relevant to understanding the focus of the investigation that are going to come out in a Freedom of Information Act request and absolutely inflame Congress." Wow. This just broke moments ago. Joining us now with more on this development, the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Virginia Congressman Bob Goodlatte. Sir, good to see you. Welcome to New York.
Thank you, Sean. Great to be with you and your viewers.
Anything I'm saying so far before I get to this new information that's wrong? Anything you think I'm wrong on?
Well, we don't know everything that's right yet, and so it's absolutely critical that we get all of this information out, but this is very alarming, and it is absolutely something that the Congress needs to pursue and the American people need to know about. The calls for transparency are absolutely important.
Sounds like they're withholding my interpretation things from Congress.
Well, that's how I read this text that we have provided today. This text Strzok references 302s. As you know from the amount of time you've spent on this, 302s are reports filed by FBI agents after they interview witnesses. And they were requested by the Congress, and Strzok is talking to Lisa Page, and he says, there are very inflammatory things in the 302s we didn't turn over to Congress because they weren't relevant to understanding the focus of the investigation that are going to come out in a FOIA and absolutely inflame Congress. Now, why is it that folks in the FBI make that decision rather than the United States Congress makes the decision what is relevant to the investigation?
We do have co-equal branches of government the last time I checked, and we do have oversight of Congress and in particular of these branches. Let me ask you this, because this is what we're learning. They first talked of an insurance policy. I believe it's Andrew McCabe, Strzok and Page. Then we've got, they knew that there was nothing that was going to happen. Now, Peter Strzok is literally exonerating with James Comey Hillary Clinton. They start this in early May. She's not interviewed till the 4th of July. July 1st, then we find out Loretta Lynch, Profile and Courage, that Loretta Lynch also knows nothing's going to happen to Hillary. So we have Comey, Strzok, Page, McCabe, and Loretta Lynch knowing nothing's going to happen, an exoneration before investigation. Is that common practice? I didn't know you wrote exonerations before you actually did the investigation.
Absolutely not. And it shows an unbelievably contrasting approach to the investigation of one presidential candidate compared to the investigation of the other presidential candidate.
What about the hate that we see, loathsome, F Trump, between Page and Strzok? And Strzok is up to his eyeballs in everything. And he even conducted the interview with Hillary before Comey then publicly exonerates her after a 13.5-minute speech where you think he's going to indict her.
And he edited that. He edited.
Well, how many times? Taking out the legal standard.
Absolutely.
Well, they hate Trump. Now, he also was appointed by Mueller. All the Mueller appointments are Clinton, Obama, DNC donors. There's no Trump donors in there. And then I look at Andrew Weissman. Here's a guy that got it wrong, 9-0 decision in the Supreme Court overturning him. He held back exculpatory evidence in a particular case. 4 Merrill executives go to jail for a year. That's overturned by the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. Does that sound like somebody that should have been hired by Robert Mueller? And should this special counsel be disbanded based on what we know now?
It's very concerning about Weissman and more than just Strzok on this investigation. But I'm not prepared to call for ending the investigation. I think that there has to be transparency about what is going on behind the scenes, not with the investigation
itself. Is there
itself,
any evidence of Trump-Russia collusion that we've seen?
I haven't seen it.
Nobody's seen it, have they?
I haven't seen it.
Yeah. All right. Congressman, great to see you. I know you're working hard on this. Last question. I do have a question. Rod Rosenstein did walk into Paul Ryan's office. I know this happened. This is when we're coming up on the deadline for the information that led to the memo from the House Intel Committee. That's interesting to me, begging Ryan not to release it. As I look at that behavior and look at what you've read the memo, correct?
I have indeed.
Will I be shocked?
Based upon what you're talking about here, I don't think I should comment, but I will say this, that it's very important for the American people to see it because it is a very important issue that should concern all of them.
And we should have all 50,000 text messages, shouldn't we?
I think the text messages, as long as they don't contain anything about sources and methods.
We don't want to put anybody in jeopardy. I agree with that.
Will, I think, be available to the American people. And we're thrilled to get these new text messages because it fits exactly into what we're talking about. We've already requested them today, and we've requested them unredacted so that we can make the judgment about what is important in this investigation and not the people who are being investigated.
Congressman, we need oversight more than ever. I am really concerned that a grave injustice and a great corruption has happened, not rank and file at the very top.
A lot is happening. We've got a good inspector general who, as I said to you on your radio program yesterday, we have other ways to find this. Guess what? He found him. And that's really important.
And we got all 4 phones.
And we got
How many phones do you have?
I have 1.
Yeah, normal. Okay. Good to see you, sir.
Thanks, Sean.
All right, Sarah Carter, breaking news tonight. Greg Jarrett, so much more. Stay with us. All right, on this busy breaking news night, Ed Henry is in Washington with new information about the New York Times report. Is it my understanding and reading that these are anonymous sources again?
It is anonymous sources, people who are familiar with Robert Mueller, the special counsel's investigation. The New York Times suggesting that last June the president indicated to some of his senior aides that he wanted to fire Robert Mueller. He believed he had conflicts. Remember the reports that you and others were citing at the time last summer that Robert Mueller had hired a lot of lawyers on the special counsel team who had donated money to Democratic candidates. Also, one piece of it that I've been able to confirm tonight is I just spoke to a source familiar with this saying that the president did have kind of a business dispute with Robert Mueller years ago involving his golf club in Virginia that Mueller had been a member of. There was a fee dispute, might be relatively minor in the grand scheme of these things, but it was something that was an issue between them. The bottom line, though, is that the Times, citing anonymous sources, is saying that the president last June told senior aides that he wanted to fire Robert Mueller over conflicts and then went on and was told by the White House counsel Don McGahn here that he would quit if the president told him to do that because McGahn thought that this would be a political landmine for the president. Bottom line is I just spoke also to Ty Cobb, a White House lawyer, who told me he has no independent confirmation of any of this, but said that the White House simply, Sean, is not going to comment tonight out of respect for the special counsel and his investigation. They don't want to weigh in, confirm, deny. They are simply just moving forward and trying to cooperate as much as they can with this investigation, Sean.
All right. Thanks so much, Ed Henry. As always, we appreciate it. Here with more reaction to this top story tonight, Fox News contributor Sarah Carter, Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett. Let's start with the new text messages. Sarah.
Wow, I mean, they're very explosive. And when you hear Chairman Goodlatte talk about this, I mean, the fact that they have these 302 witness interviews, Sean, and that they don't want to share this with Congress because they're afraid of how inflammatory they will be, and the fact that they did withhold them. And remember how long it took for Congress to even get these text messages, to get these FBI witness 302 interviews. I mean, they really stymied Congress Congress on this, and that's part of the dispute that you see now between the DOJ and the House Intelligence Committee, where the House Intelligence Committee says, look, you guys held back from us. We asked for these documents over and over again, and the FBI and you, DOJ, held back, and you finally gave in. And now that we have our investigation semi-wrapped up, you don't want us to share it with the American public. Well, I think people deserve to see it.
Let me go to Greg Jarrett. So, of course, the news media sheep anonymous sources. My good friend Joe Concha just put out a tweet, and it reminds us of everything. Listen, I'm sure the president did look at conflicts of interest, as he should. Right. Absolutely legitimate, just like it's legitimate to say, who'd you vote for? And the media tries to make the biggest deal over that. But remember last June, anonymous sources, wasn't it Maggie Haberman and other New York Times reporters telling us that the Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, would be long gone by now? And haven't we had a number of these Washington Post, New York Times stories end up being debunked with their phony, anonymous sourcing?
Yeah, these are not reliable reporters. And by the way, there have been innumerable stories over the last several months that Trump wanted to fire Mueller. And I would, too, if I were president. Mueller had not one but two conflicts of interest. Rod Rosenstein did. The president probably felt as though I'd like to get rid of these guys and get other people who can be fair, objective, and neutral in this case. But I must say, Sean, with every new text message that is revealed, the evidence becomes incontrovertible that a rogue group of high-ranking officials at the FBI decided on their own that they were going to clear Hillary Clinton for political reasons. They changed the wording on June 10th.
Greg, they didn't want to piss off perhaps the next president.
Because they assumed she was going to be elected president, and they were clearing the path for her. And simultaneously, the backup plan, let's destroy Donald Trump's candidacy, and if he wins, we'll destroy his presidency with a false investigation of crimes he never committed, and they knew it.
Oh, that's right, because we learned that last night, Sarah. That's right. He said there's no there, but if I can be involved in history and an impeachment, I'd love to do it.
Well, that's it, Sean. And I think what's so enormously frustrating, talking to law enforcement officials, people within the FBI, the minute the FBI issued that statement about a technical glitch and the DOJ and that they wouldn't be able to retrieve these text messages, I was getting calls day and night. I mean, for the last 2 days from FBI investigators, criminal investigators that said there is no way they are lying. They are lying and blatantly lying. If they have the devices, they can retrieve the text messages. There's ghost messages on there. Even if they've been deleted, they can still get them. So they want to know, why did the FBI lie again? And another question that I think is really important, and the reason why Americans are so frustrated, and I see it over and over again, here we have a criminal investigation into President Trump and into his campaign members based on shoddy evidence, no evidence, a dossier, a salacious dossier. And here we have an enormous abundance of evidence of obstruction of justice, possibly all kinds of criminal activity here. And there isn't a criminal investigation into this. It's a congressional investigation and an IG investigation. The scales of justice don't seem to be balanced.
Last word, Greg Jarrett, what are we looking for now, and what should happen?
Well, the 4-page memo. And there's a reason why the Department of Justice sent over a letter trying to convince the Intel Committee not to release it publicly. Because guys like Rod Rosenstein know it's damning evidence of their arguably illegal conduct. It's a crime called abuse of power, deprivation of rights, to use a false document, the dossier, to spy on anybody, much less a political candidate for president of the United States. So it wouldn't surprise me if it's not just Rosenstein involved, McCabe and Comey. There are a lot of people, I agree with your earlier guests, that are going to be going to jail.
I've heard this is the first 10, 15%. There's more following the memo. Sarah, that's what you're reporting.
Oh, absolutely. This is just one. I was told if there were 10 bullets, and there are, this is only one of those 10. They say there is so much more that needs to be revealed and so much more that needs to be investigated, and we'll be getting that.
People are going to start taking the fifth very soon.
Never thought in our country. When we come back, Dan Bongino, Austin Goolsbee. All right, here with reaction to our top stories tonight, we have former Secret Service agent Dan Bongino, former Obama economic advisor Austin Goolsbee. Oh, Austin, I want an insurance policy in case Trump is elected. He's lonesome, F him, and he's going to be the main guy, and he's going to talk about, oh, we don't want to piss off Hillary Clinton in any way. So what we'll do is let's rig it, and we'll change the memo. We'll start writing an exoneration before an investigation. Oh, we'll know, Comey will know, McCabe will know, Loretta Lynch will know. Then we'll interview her, and then we'll go out and say she's good. I'm sure you're happy with the way the wheels of justice roll in this case.
Sean, my New Year's resolution was I'm not going to let you agitate me. I'm going to stay in my happy spot. So what are you saying? Is your accusation is that because they had these
no, my
these
no.
What I'm saying society? Do you think the secret society?
Let me educate you about one
Sean?
thing. Mishandling classified information is a crime. Destroying such is a crime. Deleting subpoenaed emails is obstruction. Using acid wash on your hard drive shows obstruction.
Okay, we're back on Hillary Clinton.
Have you ever busted a mobile device with your hammer? Have you ever done that?
I haven't. I've busted a mobile device, but not with a hammer. No.
Not with that. You used a sledgehammer or a golf club, Dan Bongino.
I dropped it in the pool.
You know,
you dropped it in the what?
Sean,
I dropped it in the swimming pool and I wrecked it
on purpose. Yeah, Dan.
Yeah, I can't for the life of me understand why relatively smart people like Austin cannot just come clean and admit that this is an absolute disaster. The Trump team was spied on. They covered it up, and that these FBI agents at the senior management level were involved. This is so obvious that Austin's got an advanced degree from college, and he can't admit this. Sean, one quick thing on this, too, because I know where Austin's going to go with this. Oh, what? These FBI guys, so what? They had bad political opinions and they made some stupid texts. That's not the point. These were the people intimately involved in the exoneration letter, changing the language to exonerate Hillary Clinton from a federal crime.
But they did that way before they ever talked to her or the witnesses. So, you know, I know everybody in law enforcement. Dan, you were in law enforcement. They always write the exoneration just in case they find it, right? Months before they investigate.
No, only when you're so politically biased that you want the outcome in advance. I mean, this was ridiculous.
Wow. And I guess you're fine with this, Austin. You're totally cool with it.
It's not that I'm fine with it. It's that the Mueller investigation, Mueller is a career and lifetime Republican. These are good law enforcement officers conducting the investigation, and it's really not a good thing to be criticizing the FBI because there's one person who's texting.
Excuse me, he's not criticizing.
And you got worked up that this was a secret society, and that was completely a joke.
By the way, I don't know about the secret society. You can interpret it one way. Some people say it was a joke. I don't know. But what we do know is enough, isn't it? We do know they hated Trump. We do know he was involved in the investigation.
That person
we do know
Trump,
an exoneration
and when Mueller
before
found
investigation.
Out, he fired him from the.
We do know that he
says.
He found out. We do know before Comey ever announced that he's saying he and McCabe and Comey and Page and Loretta Lynch know it's never going to happen. Really? How would he know? It wasn't his decision.
Look, I understand you don't like him. I can't pronounce his name. I don't know how you say it. But he was fired from Mueller's team. If you are trying to suggest that we should not pay attention to potential crimes that the special counsel is investigating,
Dan Bongino,
I totally disagree.
Do you think Robert Mueller could have found one Republican? One Republican donor?
They found people that donate to Republicans.
Hang on. He's got all Obama donors, all Clinton donors, over 50 grand. Well, just one? Maybe one?
Yeah, and his chief bulldog, Andy Weissman, sends a congratulations letter, sends a congratulations email to Sally Yates when she defies President Trump, which later cost her a job. Austin, I cannot believe, with a serious face, that you are defending this. And you know what I find interesting? I presented to you two indisputable facts.
You're asking Mueller to violate the rules of the Justice Department.
Austin, I presented to you two indisputable facts. That the people involved in this investigation, Stroke, was also intimately involved in the drafting of an exoneration letter in a very suspicious fashion. And you then diverted and said, you made it. I never made it about Mueller. You mentioned Mueller.
You diverted to something other than this investigation. How does Hillary Clinton have anything to do with Robert Mueller's investigation?
All right, let me answer that question for you. And riddle me this there, buddy. I'm going to ask you a question for you. Because in the initial draft of the Comey exoneration memo, there is a line in there about Hillary on her private email, emailing another senior government official. You know who that is, Austin? Barack Obama. And it was Peter Strzok and his buddies, the same people who took that line out. What do you got to say about that one?
Peter Strzok was fired from the Mueller investigation when they found out about the text messages.
After the damage was done.
You can be as mad as you want at Peter Strzok, if that's how you pronounce it. That's fine. That has no bearing on whether Mueller's investigation
Peter Strzok is still employed by the FBI.
And whether Mueller himself is a lifetime Republican.
But him being a lifetime Republican has nothing to do with the fact you asked me what this had to do with Hillary. And Hillary Clinton's was exonerated in advance by a guy who was tweeting about how much he hated Donald Trump.
Has nothing to do with Russian involvement. What do you that is completely unrealistic.
Where after a year? Hang on, let me join in here.
And investigate Hillary
Austin,
Clinton.
it's been a year. It's been a year. Give me one example of Trump-Russia collusion, real quick.
4 people have been indicted from the campaign.
Not on Russia.
All
right, thank you both. A very special Laura Ingraham edition of the Hannity Hotline.